Laughing, hoping that I get signed. Now I own my own tracks, riding waves of the hypermind. Popular and dirt poor broke, that ain't my type of grind. If I got started.
Welcome to 3 Count Commentaries. This video is going to get me labeled a homophobe. I don't give a shit. I've done quite a few videos already where people have called me a homophobe, whether it's in emails or whatever. I don't care. But Effy, the wrestler from GCW, had a match with Jon Moxley over the weekend. I believe, I forget what the date was, but it was a Saturday. I think it was August the 13th or something, where the two of them were kissing each other in the ring. Then Moxley put him in a sleeper hold where Effy slid his hands down his pants in front of the hard camera and simulated masturbation. This is simply disgusting, if we're being honest. And this kind of degeneracy. Look, I know it's GCW and most people don't care, but this is Effy. This isn't the first time Effy's been doing something. Like, he has routinely, part of his character is him face fucking people, like he did with he was kissing all over Ricky Morton not too long ago. He just got into a tiff with the internet because he did a thing where he grabbed a young lady's head and was slamming it towards his crotch. This guy absolutely has nothing to add to the wrestling business. Nothing. You know, I give him some credit because I think he is kind of charismatic. But at the same time, when anything that he does is sexually based, that's all he can fucking do. And I said this when during the time when he was getting some heat from people that were comparing him to Joey Ryan, which is kind of what we're going to be talking about today. I said that Effy gets away with it because he has the gay shield, where anytime you critique Effy and what he's doing and saying what he's doing is wrong, all of a sudden you're a homophobe because you just don't like the gays. You just don't like that the match was so gay. And my response to that is, what the fuck you think this business is? Like, you think this business is cool where guys can slide their hands down their pants and simulate masturbating in front of an audience while he's supposed to be in a fight for his life? That's perfectly fine. You think these guys are supposed to be kissing each other in the ring? What the fuck is going on? What kind of Bugs Bunny horseshit is these dudes on? Like, what's the purpose of this fucking match if we're not going to take anything in it seriously? Like, Jon Moxley beats people on TV with this sleeper hold, and now we get Effy masturbating during it. What is that supposed to tell me as somebody who follows this whole thing? You know, it's a joke. It's stupid. It's degenerate. Why would you want to participate in this? And Moxley's a fucking multimillionaire. He doesn't need to get involved with this shit. He's doing it because he likes it, apparently. So I guess he gets him some good boy points with the GCW rainbow flag crowd. But for me, I'm done. I have zero respect for Jon Moxley. I already don't have any for Effy. And I know nobody cares because I'm just a guy on the internet. But I have no fucking respect for anybody who would degenerate not only their business like this, but themselves. To simulate essentially apartment fucking wrestling in the middle of the ring is weird. It's weird as fuck. And this isn't the first time Effy's done this. Effy is the same guy who did the dildo spot with Marco Stunt. He's the same guy. He absolutely has nothing else to add to the wrestling business other than being a gay stereotype. And not a very good one either. He comes across like a fucking pervert. That's why he keeps getting, why are people saying that he's just like Joey Ryan? Because Joey Ryan was a fucking pervert. And everybody was calling him a fucking pervert. And it turns out, in reality, he's a fucking pervert. So people are now saying, you know what? Effy is a fucking pervert. And they're like, no, don't do that. Like, well, look, I don't give a fuck that he looks like Ned Flanders and he wants to fuck Ned Flanders. I don't care. What he's doing is perverted. And people who think that they're defending this by saying it's a kink match. Who the fuck paid to see a kink match? If you would have told everybody, if this was the dildo thing, when they did the dildo thing, I kind of like, okay, it was called the Big Gay Brunch. So if you watched it, you knew what you were looking for. But this wasn't labeled the Big Gay Match or they're going to have a kink match. Then you come in thinking like, wait a minute, I thought they were going to have a real wrestling match here. And now they're kissing each other. and they're grabbing each other's crotches and, you know, all this. The crowd is chanting for Effie to suck Jon Moxley's dick. That's sick. That's sick. That's crazy. Why would you be... Brett Lauderdale must be a fucking moron to keep paying Jon Moxley to show up and he doesn't take this shit seriously. Well, I guess it doesn't matter to him. He's running a small-time wrestling promotion. If somebody actually paid money to see Jon Moxley, only for Jon Moxley to be involved in a kissing match in which a wrestler, you know, is told by the crowd to suck Jon Moxley's dick, then I guess it makes no money. It's no difference to him. He gets paid either way. So if you thought it was going to be a real match, then hey, had you fooled, got your money anyway. All you people who paid for it on Fight, all you people who bought ticket to see this. So Brett Lauderdale obviously is a snake who, you know, doesn't mind degenerating the business. And Moxley doesn't either. And I'm not some Jim Cornette, everything needs to be perfect, pro wrestling, you know, purist. I'm far from it. You know, I'm actually more a fan of the whole quote unquote sports entertainment aspect of it. And I'm even okay with some of the gold dust antics of Effie. If he wants to, you know, utilize some of that stuff, that's perfectly fine. But you're talking about masturbating in the middle of the ring. That's some bullshit. I cannot condone that. Fuck that. Hell no. Hell no. That's sick, bro. That's sick. There's just no way that you can sit back and say that that's perfectly fine. But of course, the internet will try it. Because the internet is degenerate as fuck. And there's a certain nature of wrestling fan that is absolutely okay with anything. Mainly because it fits their political point of view. So we're going to definitely dive into that. So let's get into it. Oh boy. How is Effie the same type of gay stereotype he used to speak out against in interviews? Guess when you lack talent, you go for shock. Absolutely. I much prefer guys like Darren Young, who is gay, but managed to somehow not make it the core of his personality. Sorry, but the, hey guys, look, I'm super gay character has been done to death and was never great to begin with. But I guess, according to the internet, that means I hate the gays because criticism equals hate. Absolutely. I agree 100% with this entire comment. Currently you do have, he's not wrestling under his name, Darren Young. I forget what his real name is, but he's like the New Japan Strong champion right now. And he's gay. Everybody's known he's been gay forever, but that's not, again, it's not the core of his personality. And that becomes the very nature of this debate or this discussion, is that there are gay people who exist who say I'm gay and then they go on about their lives. Everything else about them is fairly normal. And then you got the, I'm gay, I want to be draped out in rainbows. Every other comment is how gay they are and how it's almost like they're politically gay. Or, you know, and that's kind of what Effie comes across as. He doesn't come across as any normal guy who just happens to have a sexual attraction towards men. He comes across as, I'm gay and everything I do is going to be super gay. And everything I talk about is going to be super gay. He did an article once where he talked about how wrestling is gay. And he wants to make wrestling gay. And I'm just sitting here looking like, what the fuck? Like, you want to increase the amount of homophobia in wrestling. That's what you want. You want to make wrestling so niche that the only people who want to go see it are people who are absolutely brain dead, Cheeto eating, pretzel stuffed in their chops, fucking losers. That's the only people you want into this business, because that's the only people who are going to fucking watch this kind of horse shit that you do. Because for starters, I've watched enough GCW and I'm kind of a supporter of the brand. I actually don't mind it. I look at it similar to ECW in a way, you know, but this kind of shit, this Effie shit, which I've kind of looked at and cringed over the last year or so, I'm looking at it now like it's actively harming the GCW brand. Just like when Joey Janela was doing the Invisible Man matches and the socially distanced match and all that dumb shit, it was actively harming the GCW brand. There's certain levels of ridiculousness that do not do your brand any positive service. And for GCW, which is a company that is home to some really talented dudes who actually show up and they're ass kickers. Like the Briscoes are the tag team champions. John Moxley is the world champion. And in the midst of those guys who are sort of gutter and underground and grungy, and they can go out there and have these kick-ass pro wrestling matches or kick-ass fights, you have this fucking guy simulating masturbating in the middle of the ring. The main event features people kissing each other in the match. And this is somehow, like, which brand are you? Are you, attempting to become a successful national brand and sell tickets and be legitimate? Or are you being what Jim Cornette calls the outlaw mud show, where nothing matters, it's all just ironic pseudo wrestling, and we're going to do this stuff, but we're going to play it up for laughs? Which one is it? Which one is it? Because you can do certain sports entertainment elements, but it can't be the fucking main event. If Effy was on in the first match doing weird shit and people was kind of like, ha, 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 oh, it's over, and then we go into the serious stuff, that's one thing. But when you want to blend the sort of serious angle that you're trying to do, they're trying to build up a match between John Moxley and Nick Gage, and title versus career, after Moxley just did a match where his offense was used as a masturbatory tool by some fucking weirdo. Why should I take that seriously now? Why should I take that seriously now? You told me that his chokeholds is worth masturbating over. This is stupid. It's fucking stupid. Let's go back to the internet. All I'm going to say is if Effie was straight, this would be a problem. Yep, it would be. Somebody said Mox should have dropped so he can bounce. I don't know what that meant. If Mox started choking me out, I'd start stroking it too. So that's the kind of wrestling fans that they want to have, apparently, in their arenas. So some people call this an art form. If jerking off is an art form, then ... There's a lot of Picassos watching this shit. All right, it says, Effie being gross again. Why am I not shocked at all? It's legal to jerk off in public. Some people talk about how it's getting weird, and somebody said, this is what y'all call pro wrestling. Yes, John Moxley and all his, I hate that sports entertainment crap. All he does every Wednesday, but he agrees to do this shit. I'm tired of hearing about all your pro wrestling, with all his shoulder wobbling. And then he's involved with this garbage. Somebody said, this is the pro wrestling y'all be gassing. Yeah, now because WWE fans are starting to see this. And that's why I'm doing this video. Because John Moxley is still known as Dean Ambrose to some of these people. So a lot of these people don't follow GCW. But they do sort of still keep an eye on what these guys are doing. And they see this. And they're like, oh, we were told that sports entertainment sucks. And sports entertainment is bad and stupid. But then he does this. Oh, the gas mask was so stupid. It was so dumb. The little red wagon and the potted plant. It was so stupid. But you would rather kiss this monkeypox magnet in the mouth in front of everybody and have him simulate jerking off. That's weird. That's weird. And if I was Renee, I probably would, force John to get tested. That's just me. And I don't care if you think it's homophobic. Somebody says, genuinely curious who this spot appeals to. This is the masturbation spot. That's a good question. Somebody says wrestling needs to have some standards. Touching yourself in front of an audience that didn't consent to it is a problem. Oh, but they believe this shit should be happening. Have you not seen pride parades? Pride parades is all kinds of shit like this. That's why I say if you'd have labeled it some kind of gay-friendly match and people who didn't mind seeing this kind of stuff could have went in there and saw it, perfectly fine. But there was people who were probably there expecting to see a serious pro wrestling match, and then they tuned into kind of this kind of shit. Who's going to be like, ugh, what the fuck? I can't get a refund from this. I'm stuck here now. Because the show is 4 fucking hours. So that means for 3 hours and 30 minutes, you were sitting through a show and then all of a sudden this fucking shit starts to happen. Somebody says, Effie is being gross again. Color me shocked. And call me homophobic if you want, because I hate the gays. This person has a trans flag in their profile, so don't take it seriously. Some people are comparing him to Joey Ryan, and I still think that's not quite right. and this is crucial, I am super allowed to not like this and not want this in my wrestling, and to get upset when Effie starts fucking jerking it mid-match. This is not like Exotico spots. I agree. I don't like Exoticos either, but if that's your thing, there should be a space for it. You know, Mexico does the Exoticos. The Exoticos, for people who don't know, is cross-dressers. And so drag queens. So you may do a drag queen wrestling match. Okay, perfectly fine. As long as I know it's going to happen, all right. I may turn the other cheek to it. When I watch AAA, I see drag queens all the time. They do some of this fruitcake shit where they smacking each other on the butts or they're kissing one another. They may kiss the straight wrestlers, and that kissing thing, the Bugs Bunny aspect of it, it's a thing that they use all the time. But it's the masturbatory thing that I think takes it to the next level. And this is the stuff that gets attention on GCW. You know, this is the stuff that they put out there that they want people to see. And they think, well, all attention is good attention. It's like, well, maybe not. This is awful. Somebody says, you see, Moxley was beating up Effy, but it kept making him horny. Haha. Effy then threw a dozen of the worst punches I've ever seen. Somebody says, every time something like Yamashita and Cologne makes me more interested in checking out GCW, I see shit like this and I don't bother. Now, the Yamashita Cologne thing was also stupid because it was an intergender hardcore match in which a woman defeated a man while she was getting hit with what was that, fluorescent light tubes, and there was all types of glass and shit. I don't like that shit anyway, but that's part of the GCW experience that I don't really appreciate. I don't like hardcore matches at all, period. I don't like death matches. They suck. And it takes almost no talent to do, which is another thing that I've criticized GCW for, is that they put people in the ring for which what they do don't take any talent. For instance, what Effie is doing in the death matches. It don't take talent to do a death match. All you do is sit still and get hit with a fluorescent light tube. But I don't like death matches. I can tolerate death matches because there's other stuff on there that I do like, but I'm not going to tolerate the masturbation and the suck his dick chants and all that shit. I'm not gonna put up with that. Fuck this company. Period. Somebody says shit like this is why I can't get behind Effie. His gimmick is legitimately just gay Joey Ryan, and it's just so uncomfortable. That's exactly what he is. Somebody says, wild how the line has been drawn over this spot as either you like a man masturbating mid-match in the main event or you're a homophobe. Absolutely. How ridiculous is that? That you either support this kind of shit or you're a homophobe. Like, no, I'm not. Call me whatever you want. I'm not supporting this shit. Fuck these dudes. Both of them. Fuck Brett Lauderdale for paying them for doing this. Fuck them. And I feel bad for the audience who was offended, but got stuck paying money for this kind of shit. Somebody says, describing this as an art is so funny. You absolutely deserve GCW. Somebody says, last I checked, it's illegal to jerk off in public, and it's fucked up. That's true. Another question, simple question. Who is this supposed to appease? Good question. Somebody says, another Joey Ryan. Also more reason why I don't care about Moxley, but I do care about Ambrose. I don't think anybody cares about Ambrose at this point, dog. Somebody says, fuck off, you pearl clutchers. I seen your little fanfic stories talking about raunchier shit than John Moxley. Who the fuck writes fan fiction? Why the fuck is wrestling a place where people do fan fiction? It's one thing to have fantasy booking, but if you're fan fiction it like it's Star Trek or some shit like that, it's too nerdy. Okay? We don't need that. No. Go away. Somebody says, for people defending this, what are your thoughts on Joey Ryan? This is a genuine question, by the way. Somebody says, Effie is literally just gay Joey Ryan without the allegations. And here's the thing about the Joey Ryan allegations is people were defending it because they didn't know what kind of person Joey Ryan was. And then they found out, and then it became, oh, well, I was defending it until I found out, but now I'm still a good person. It's like, guess what? Everybody was arguing the principle by saying there should not be guys whose gimmicks are you grab their dicks and they flip you. That's what people were saying. They were saying the principle of this thing is fucking stupid. But some people don't have any principles. That's why they're defending Effy. They don't have any fucking principles. It's okay for them to do horse shit as long as it's this guy that I like. It's okay. But when it's nobody likes him anymore, now all of a sudden what he was doing was bad. It's like, get the fuck out of here. Somebody says, sorry, not sorry, but Effie just fucking sucks. I do not see the appeal in the slightest. I agree. Somebody said, this is one of the moments where it's fucking embarrassing to be a wrestling fan. Granted, it already is, but this amplifies it. The worst part of this is the smooch segment, which was actually hot, is going to get overshadowed by this wild as fuck act. And what they're talking about here is I saw a clip of Moxley and Effy were, instead of doing the boo yay punch segment, they were doing a boo yay kiss segment where they was kissing each other back and forth. And it was kind of like boo yay, boo yay. It was disgusting. It was gross. You know, like, I don't understand what that has to do with this fucking business. You know, I don't get it. And look, not everything is for me to get. I understand that part too. But we're in a situation here where I just don't have any words. It's very strange. Somebody said, I see this shit from GCW all the time, and especially Effie, and I just think, like, you don't ever just want to have a match and not focus on what different ways your character can be perverted. But that's what he does. He has no fucking talent. Again, the guy is charismatic. He is that. But in terms of being actually a good wrestler, he's given multiple opportunities. He's been in the ring with all sorts of legends. He's been in the ring with Jeff Jarrett and Ricky Morton and Two Cold Scorpio. And every time it just devolves into this kind of shit. You know, it's just, how many people can I get to validate me and my degenerate, perverted lifestyle? And he keeps finding new ways. And it's the same thing with Joey Ryan. When people was giving heat on Joey Ryan, it would always be, Mick Foley took the dick flip. So-and-so took the dick flip. I was able to do the dick flip on TV because he did it on TNA. I did the dick flip on TV. I'm trying to mainstream sleaze. And then we found out he was really a pervert. You know, it is what it is. Every now and then, something happens that makes me embarrassed to be a wrestling fan. This is one of those things. I agree. Somebody says, keep in mind, this is the same company who rehired a man that hit a minor like they just shut the whole company down. Who rehired a man that hit on a minor. Oh, yes, I heard about that. I heard about that was a wrestler that in GCW who was flirting with an underage girl. I don't remember his name. I think it was AJ Gray. I think. Was it AJ Gray? Somebody knows. There's some people in my channel that actually knows about the underbelly of GCW. I saw it, but I didn't think too much about it. But I think it was AJ Gray. Somebody says, I can definitely do without this stuff. Even if it was done by a woman, this isn't what we are watching wrestling for. More power to those who enjoy it, though. There's no more power to those who enjoy it. If you enjoy this, you're fucking sick. What is wrong with you? You probably need to reconsider the industry, or you need to create a whole new segment, a new company in which you can do shit like this and I don't have to watch it. I don't have to watch it anyway. That's not my point. My point is where other people don't have to see it. Where you can say, look, man, we were doing our own thing over here and you stumbled into it. Like the lingerie wrestling thing. They do their own thing on the periphery. If you stumble into that and you start watching it and you get offended about what they're doing, well, they weren't doing it for mass production in front of everybody. They were doing it in their own little corner of the wrestling internet. And if you stumbled into it, that's on you. You know, GCW is supposed to be a national promotion. They're utilizing wrestlers who are on cable television and have been on pay-per-views to increase their attention. They want more people to watch this stuff. They're not trying to be a niche audience, even though they are kind of, they even stopped promoting death matches. Now death matches are limited to like 1 or 2 matches per show. Out of 4 hours, only 1 or 2 matches are death matches, even though most of the show was no disqualification and stuff like that. It's the ECW principle where you'll have One or two really bloody, stupid fights, but everything else is just like general wrestling. But now they're starting to add this unnecessary sexual element, which it's a huge turnoff. It's fucking disgusting. Here's an interesting question. How the fuck does Tony Khan allow his champ to do this shit? Good question. Good question. But it's not like Tony Khan's actually going to do anything about it, because Jon Moxley has more power than Tony Khan. You know, if Jon Moxley decides, you're going to let me do my gay wrestling or I'm going to walk, then Tony Khan's like, oh my God, up. Jon Moxley, I appreciate everything you've done for us. You had a great match with Chris Jericho on television. The Lionheart, the legend in the business. He's wrestled Taz in ECW in 1995, and it was phenomenal. I thought it was really great. And he wrestled Shane Douglas in the same match, I think it was. Was it a Fatal 4-Way match? Yes, he's very good. And I don't really want you to leave. I don't want you to go anywhere. Go out and do your gay fetish wrestling if you want to. You do whatever you want. And that's kind of how it is. Like, this is weird. So my quote, it's his gimmick. You're just homophobic, crew. Come get your juice. Dinner's fucking ready, right? Ring the bell. These fucking weirdos. Somebody says, oh, so he stuck his whole hand in there. That's just nasty and not the good kind. Tony's got to get his AEW fellas away from this. Yeah. Yep. Somebody says, the fact that people just moved on from what he did last time bothers me. What he did last time was, again, he grabbed a woman by the head and was bouncing her face off of his penis. And he kind of got some notoriety for that. And people were very angry about that because the quote unquote victim was a woman. And so people were really upset. And it was the same people defending him then. It's just a gimmick. And they talked about it beforehand. And it's like, okay, sure. But I still remember, and Russell Cringe is not going to pop up on this, but I did see his tweet, which has made me do this, where he talked about Vince McMahon being a pervert and a rapist and all this kind of stuff. And they used the Vince McMahon segments when he was, with the women and how he's kissing on them and they're kissing him and all that kind of stuff as proof. And it's like, they talked about that beforehand. Anything that happened on television is usually, that's the one thing about wrestling we can be pretty sure of, is if it happened on TV, 99% of the time, it was discussed beforehand. So I'm okay with it from that perspective that it was discussed beforehand, but why would you be sitting back discussing that we're going to masturbate in front of the audience? Like why did you think that was entertainment that people would enjoy? Like that's not fun. That's stupid. It's disgusting. It's gross as fuck. Somebody says, remember the last time we had a guy doing overtly sexual stuff in the ring? That shit didn't work out so well, did it? Pro wrestling is such a joke. Somebody says, Moxley is disqualified for letting this spot slide. Just smooch the real man instead of nasty crotch chop spots. Smooch the real man. This dude's fucking really weird. Somebody said, I've seen someone cry about this. Effie is Effie, and he's just going to gay up the joint. Deal with it. Oh, okay. Well, he's just going to... Somebody said, this isn't being gay. It's being straight up weird and creepy. Nobody wants to see anyone jerk off in the ring. And of course, he got called a homophobe for it. So that's just who these people are, by the way. This is weird. Somebody says, I'm a literal porn account, and it shouldn't be controversial to say that public masturbation doesn't belong in pro wrestling. Look, we can understand that he's not literally masturbating. He's simulating masturbation. He's got his hands down in front of his trunks. He's simulating masturbation. But even doing that is too much. This is not right. This is stupid. Says, LOL at the Moxley marks who claim he's having the best run of his career and better than Roman and Seth. Yet here he is involved in this absolute disgusting, embarrassing shit. Not to mention, there's probably at most 1,000 people in the building. For the record. There's not that many people there. All right. And this is GCW's home building, which is a showboat in Atlantic City, New Jersey. There's probably like maybe 1,500 people at the most there. GCW doesn't do big crowds. Their crowds are probably bigger than Impact's. Even when Impact does a big event. But generally speaking, there's not a lot of people there. So, it is what it is. This is just horrendous and absolutely embarrassing wrestling. I agree. We get a somewhat high-profile gay wrestler, and this is what they do. Fuck this. It's disappointing. That's a good point. Well, he's not the highest-profile gay wrestler. I think Anthony Bowens is right now as a tag team member of the Acclaimed. And he doesn't do stuff like this either. So, you know, there's a difference between guys being gay and people wanting to be, you know, hey, it's like, you know, when I was in a fraternity, people used to say, you need to be the kind of guy who says, hi, my name is John. I am a blank, 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 versus my name is, I'm from blank, 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 and my name is John. Basically, how do you introduce yourself? Do you introduce yourself as a member of an organization first, or do you introduce yourself as a man first? And it seems like that applies to every sort of identification possible. Are you a man first, or are you your name first? And I always choose to be my name first. That's individualism. You know, I am who I am. You know, for the purpose of this YouTube channel, I am MongoSlade first. Everything else that I am, black, straight, male, etc., is secondary to the fact that I am who I am. Because I have all of those other characteristics in relation to other people. I'm not the only black person in the world. I'm not the only straight man in the world. I'm not the only guy with dreadlocks in the world. But I am MongoSlade. Okay, I'm taking the crown. I'm the only one. I know there's other ones out there, but god damn it, that's why I call myself the Magnificent. I have to individualize. So somebody said wrestling ain't real. Explain this. I don't know. I can't. Somebody says this was a comedy spot if you're mad about it. It's still there's ways for comedy to still be gross. You know, and it's not like I'm talking about something that's only gross to me. Like I talked before on this channel about people spitting. I'm absolutely, some people are okay with the whole spitting in each other's faces stuff. That grosses me the fuck out. All right. I'm grossed out by spitting. I'm even more okay with blood because it can naturally happen in a fight than you spitting on each other. That should never really occur. You know, spitting has no place on this. Just like spitting has no place, whether it's spitting on a man, spitting on a woman, whatever. This kind of shit, this masturbatory shit, has no place for it. There's just no place for it. No place at all. Oh boy. Let's continue. I just hope we don't repeat the same mistakes when we said it was harmless the last time we had a guy who did overtly sexual things during matches is all. Right. Somebody says, at times, pro wrestling was a mistake. Yeah. Pro wrestling being simulated works is kind of a mistake. Somebody says, remember the last time we had a dick joke-based wrestler that you weren't allowed to criticize and then we found out he was a sexual predator? Yeah, I remember that too. But you're not supposed to say that. You're not supposed to say that he's just like Joey Ryan. You know? You're not supposed to say that. Don't say that. This is genuinely disgusting. I feel bad for Moxley being the fucking AEW World Champion and having to deal with this. Gross. No, I don't feel bad for Moxley at all. Why? Because Moxley is the alpha in this situation. That's what you don't understand. Moxley is the guy who this would not be happening if he wasn't okay with it. He's the multimillionaire who doesn't need to be there. Okay? If some guy, some shrimp fucking weirdo comes up to you and says, hey, you're going to put me in a chokehold, right? And I'm going to beat my dick while you do it. He could have been like, what the fuck is wrong with you? You're not doing that. You're not doing that. And if you do that, I'm never fucking coming back. And guess what? Brett Lauderdale is going to side with the multimillionaire who doesn't need to be there versus the weirdo who's there every fucking weekend or whatever. Sorry, not sorry. This is Jon Moxley's fault too. As much as I'm shitting on Effy, and everybody should be, because he's the one who actually doing the action, this would not be happening if Jon Moxley wasn't okay with it. So it's not like Jon Moxley is some kind of victim and his match is being ruined by this fucking weirdo. No. He's involved with it. He was involved with the kissing spot too. Because he was kissing him too. That's why I say Renee probably needs to get this motherfucker tested and keep him in the room outside, away from their fucking kid. For everybody wakes up with some different kind of pimples. You want your fucking 2-month-old to have some goddamn, like, why your 2-month-old got acne, Renee? Maybe because your husband's walking around here kissing fucking grown men in the mouth. Like a weirdo. So it says, my thoughts on the Effie discourse. I'm not his target audience. This isn't my cup of tea. It's worth mentioning we've seen some egregious bits in the last 20 years. The stink face, naked Midian, Big Dick Johnson, Mae Young's Bronco Buster, Big V's humping. Hated them all, though. Yes. And here's the thing. Big Viscera humping Matt Hardy at the Royal Rumble. I thought that was too far. You know, that was gross. You know, when you simulate male rape in the middle of the ring, that's fucking gross. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? That was dumb. You know, not a fan of that. The Bronco Buster, I don't really see it as being that bad, but it's still not good. The worst, one of the more egregious ones was when Road Dogg used to do the pump handle slam. He used to get behind the guy and hump him. I fucking hated that. You know, now I understand that Road Dogg was extremely peeled up at the time and probably wasn't thinking about what he was doing, but I'm not interested in that kind of shit. And I don't think it's fun or funny. And, you know, one of those things where people were kind of grossed out about Edge when he pinned, I think it was Beulah McGillicuddy at one of the ECW One Night Stand shows, and he had her legs on his shoulders and he was bouncing up and down on her. They were weirded out by that. And they were also weirded out by Jake Roberts kind of creeping out on Brandy Rhodes. Well, what was this, 2020 AEW? Like, there's some times where sexual things happen that are gross, whether it's homosexual or heterosexual. There are some things that are just gross and that are too far. All right. And even though they may go too far, it might not go as far as often. Okay. Like the Edge character, the rated R superstar, he was working his gimmick. Just like Effie is working his gimmick. But Edge knew when to take it to the line and not make that the essential core part of his character. That's all he did was sexual based stuff. That's all fucking Effie does. Every time he gets attention in the media, it's because he's doing something sexual, not because he's a funny guy or he's, you know, got any real talent. Everything is about how sexual his presentation is and how gross it fucking is. Somebody says, I am never a huge fan of kissing spots as this match featured near its finish, but I found this spot fucking hilarious. Effie going full David Carradine with the autoerotic asphyxiation, Mox providing the assist. Who the fuck thinks that's funny? David Carradine died, by the way. So it's not fucking funny. All right? It's not funny. Where's the fucking humor in this? Somebody says, this is what pushing the boundary looks like. This is also what my occasional dreams look like from both sides. So thank you for making my dreams come true and keeping my mind pried open with a wrestling match. You're fucking gross and you probably got problems. You know, this degenerates, man. They're everywhere. Why would Tony Khan let his current champion do this? I gotta think that it has to be one of Mox's requirements to sign an AEW deal. But he needs to put his foot down and keep Moxley away from his worst wrestling instincts. Yeah. Somebody says, Moxley gave him a long-ass fucking kiss, and then they went into this spot. This shit's embarrassing as fuck. What the fuck? I didn't even know that. I didn't see this match, by the way. I think some people thought that I watched this match. I didn't see this. I watched parts of the show, but I had other things to do. The show was entirely too long. So I went and did something else. And then when I came back, Twitter was ablaze with Effie Moxley clips. One of them was Moxley being surrounded by dudes who was drinking in his face, and people were offended on Moxley's behalf. Oh no, the audience, they won't let Moxley get through. They're drinking alcohol in his face. And it's like, well, yeah, then about, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes later, they're doing this shit. So I don't feel bad for him at all. Fuck him. Somebody says, it would be a big indictment on Moxley if he agreed to this. Of course he did. What the fuck do you mean if he agreed? I've always liked the guy and thought Cornette and his ilk were on him too hard. But I can't defend this. This just reinforces how bad GCW is. Yeah. Somebody says, legit talking about what would happen if somebody was being choked and liking it at a training the other day. Not to this extreme, but obviously. Somebody says, Moxley lost my respect right here. This is a champion. Gross. Please stop this. It says, stuff like this makes me embarrassed to be a professional wrestling sports entertainment fan. Somebody says, y'all in the notes saying, how can Tony let his world champ be used like this? First off, he's the interim champ. which means he's not actually the champion. He's a placeholder. Second, Babes, corny has been Jon Moxley for his entire career. This isn't new. I don't understand what the fuck that meant. Somebody said Jeff Jarrett did the right thing. Oh, what did Jeff Jarrett actually do? I don't know. I've seen Jeff Jarrett's name pop up a couple of times. I know he worked with Effy. He did some stuff with Effy. But I don't know how that ended, so I'm not sure. Somebody said, remember the last time who had a thing with his dick? Maybe let's just keep an eye out this time. Also, this is absolute horseshit. Somebody says, here it is. What the fuck is this? And he's the world champion. Yes, it's not even just he's AEW's world champion. He's also GCW's world champion, which means he's the top of this company too. And this is the kind of shit he's engaged in. You know? Somebody says, if I was a promoter and my world champion was involved in this, I would strip him of the fucking belt and fire him. This is fucking stupid. It's a daily reminder that everyone involved in indie wrestling should be in prison. I don't know about that one. I'm not going to say that. Because, indie wrestling is what it is. It's going to be a little bit more uncouth than what you're used to. I get it. But, it don't have to be this bad. It don't have to be this kind of horse shit. It doesn't have to be. This is the kind of shit, like a funny joke for a spot, but there was ways to do it without shoving your hand directly into your trunks. No, there's no way to do it. There's no way for you to play with yourself on TV, and that people think that that's fucking cool. Somebody says, yeah, WWE was a prison for him. Maybe WWE wasn't the fucking problem. This is pathetic. That should make you think, though. That should make you think. If all the stuff that he thought was so terrible, so awful, he was doing it for a whole lot of money. Brett Lauderdale, I've seen Brett Lauderdale. He doesn't look very rich. I saw him in person. He doesn't look very rich. He might have a little bit of money, but he doesn't look like a fabulously wealthy guy. He's not Tony Khan, let's put it like that. And Tony Khan has invested a lot more money into Jon Moxley than Brett Lauderdale did. And if I was Tony Khan, I would see this and have a problem with it. Because I would be saying, like, you're involved with some shit that could adversely affect my company. There could be people who don't want to watch you because you got involved in this shit. We don't want that kind of attention, But, again, Tony Khan is not really in control of his company as much as he's dealing with people who have options. Most of the top guys have options. They can fucking leave and the company will go into the toilet. It is what it is. That was in a foreign language I didn't understand. He says, somebody says, yeah, this spot is not cool. And the fact that the replies calling this disgusting are hidden just says it all, really. Yes, the guy whose quote tweets I was reading was hiding the replies for this kind of stuff. So he didn't want people to know that there are people who think that this is gross and weird. He's one of those, if you don't like it, it's homophobic kind of guys. Somebody says, I gotta ask, the people who are absolutely fuming with this, are you just as fuming with I think I already read this, the Yamashita cologne thing. Somebody says, it's gotta be Moxley. Every fucking match is the same. Shitty forearms, go outside the ring, bleed, elbows in, chokehold. Yeah, but they didn't involve kissing. I wonder if CM Punk is going to mention this in his promo, talking about Jon Moxley, that maybe Moxley probably feel more at home kissing him and making out with him than they would fighting him. Somebody says, I don't know why this match is getting a lot of hate. Wrestling is about performing your art, and performing your craft in front of an audience. That's exactly what they're doing. So if you're hating on this, you're just a mark. It's like, that's very strange for you to say that. Because your art being, hey, I'm gay, watch me do gay shit, it's perfectly fine if that's what you want to label yourself as, but there's a lot of people who didn't sign up for this. It's the same thing I said when they did the dildo spot. If you bought the pay-per-view and that's the kind of shit you wanted to see. It's another thing if you get assaulted with this on Twitter because you did not look for that and then they did some really out of control horseshit that ended up on your timeline and that now other people have to deal with. And then Marco Stunt was also being featured on national television at the time, which is why he seems to manage to do all kinds of crazy horse shit when it's time for him to wrestle people who are nationally recognized. You know, funny how that works out. That's the only way he can get attention. This shit is weird, man. This shit is weird. It's very weird. This company won't last very long, I could tell. You know, I know that, you know, some people don't think so, but this is somebody says, I wish Prime Harley Race was there so he could have dismantled both of them. And somebody responded, Harley Race may have just shot them both. I think most old wrestlers probably would have just put a bullet in both of them or been out and saying all kind of crazy stuff about these guys, but it is what it is. Somebody says the kiss is totally okay, but this, nah, man, we already had sick bullshit with Vince and all of his fetishes and everything to now have this kind of thing in the indies. I respect Effie's character and all, but this is totally beyond the limit. If I was Tony Khan, I would be on Moxley's ass right now. I don't know if Effie planned to do this beforehand or not, but this is not good for AEW to have his world champions involved in such a disgusting act in the ring. Somebody says this whole match had a kink references and Moxley was playing the hard dominant top throughout the entire match. Guess you had to be gay to understand it. They both played their part and ran by each other, and this is a gay wrestling fan apparently telling us the gay perspective on a wrestling match, which I didn't know was a perspective. Maybe they should have a black wrestling match where everybody has gold teeth and there's watermelon all over the place. And somebody hits each other in the head with a bucket of fried chicken. And then after that, they both can go to jail. And then they can have a gay hardcore top bottom submission match in jail. Because that's what black culture is, right? Fuck you. That's not what gay culture is. This isn't gay culture. This is extreme kink weirdos. That's what this shit is. There are people who are gay. And then there are these, we need to dress up like puppies and go down the street and pretend to pee on fire extinguishers, kink, and pride parades. There's a difference. This is a difference. I am as pro-black as anybody could possibly be. And there's no way I'm going to sit back and be like, everything that motherfuckers do who happen to be black is okay. I'm not going to sit and stand for that. Fuck you. There's a bad way to represent being black. There's a bad way to represent being gay. Effie is the fucking worst. He's the worst. And gay people need to stand up and say that this fucking guy doesn't represent gay people and he should stop doing this horse shit. That's the only way for it to stop. Otherwise, everybody else going to get called a homophobe. I don't care if you call me a homophobe. I don't give a fuck. I'm beyond the pale at this point. This gay wrestling fan continues. Mox kissed and licked Effie on the cheek. They both was working on each other. Wrestling has no limits, especially independent wrestling promotions. Wrestling has no limits, guys. There's no limits. This is like what I said before. If you don't know what wrestling is, you have this kind of mindset. Wrestling has no limits. So therefore, everything is wrestling. That's not how words work. Words have definitions. You're going to call it wrestling, they need to actually fucking wrestle and not have fetish horse shit. This is gross. This is gross, man. This is gross as fuck. And I'm glad I see more people being upset about this than not. But there's still some people who are promoting this as if it's okay. Somebody says, my issue was that Effie was touching people with his hand after not washing it. Other than that, it's kind of a funny spot. Oh boy. Now somebody's going to try to explain to us normal people, whether you be normally gay or abnormally gay or whatever, the purpose of this, the philosophy, the psychology of this match. So the whole match was them playing mind games with one another. They were trying to out-gay one another. And that's supposed to be okay. Okay, I'm trying to out-gay you. Why would Jon Moxley be trying to out-gay Effie? Jon Moxley is not gay. At least as far as we know. So, what is the point of this? I just don't see what's the picture here? I don't know, man. This is stupid. Somebody says, imagine explaining this to a non-wrestling fan. I would never even try to. I would hope that none of them actually saw it. Somebody says, you see the man was masturbating to get the other man to stop choking him so he can win the title. Stupid. Fucking gross. This is fucking gross, man. This is some gross shit. Here's an interesting one. If no one's going to say it, I will. Y'all think the Mox Effie spot would have been less controversial if they were both dudes? Oh, like when Ric Flair kissed Becky Lynch and then everybody acted up and threw a fit and they complained and then it was edited out. If you watched that Royal Rumble match, I think it was a Royal Rumble match between Charlotte and Becky. I think it was the Royal Rumble. They edited out Ric Flair kissing Becky Lynch because people threw a fit. How could Ric Flair, he's 70 some odd years old, and he kissed Becky Lynch? How could that be? Why would you do that? That's gross. But this is okay. Remember the Mickie James Trish Stratus spot where Mickie James grabbed Trish and licked her fingers or something like that? That was initially edited out too. And I think actually WWE even apologized for Mickie doing that. So, no, it has nothing to do with both of them being dudes. That's the thing, like, you have to agree or you're a homophobe. It's like, no, I'm not going to agree, so just call me whatever you want. Somebody said there was exactly the same exact backlash when Effie did a similar spot in an intergender match like months ago. Yes, that was pretty weird. Pretty weird decision for you to do this, bruh. Here's another interesting one. The number of quote-unquote fans who believe that Mox's wife and peers said, like, oh my god, what the fuck, about the Effie kiss is hilarious. I assure you no one gives a fuck. If anything, they probably laughed. They probably thought it was a great moment. Believe it or not, homophobia isn't the default response. Yes, homophobia, because, kissing is involved in wrestling. I remember that great kissing contest between Steve Austin and The Rock. Hey, they drew so much money kissing each other. We remember all the Bret the Hitman Hart and Shawn Michaels matches from all the great kisses that they had against one another. People are fucking stupid. They just say anything to justify their ridiculous argument. It's just ridiculous. Here's another one. The Effie discourse is not coming from a place of honesty. A bunch of incels are mad that a rapey dude they like got in trouble for being rapey. And they are making a pathetic attempt at whataboutism. I promise you, we don't need to actually have or even platform this conversation. Well, guess what, dude? You don't get a fucking choice on what I do on my channel. And it has nothing to, because I don't fucking like Joey Ryan. And guess what? There's a lot of people who didn't like Joey Ryan. In fact, I bet if you actually looked, you'll find that there are a lot of people who feel vindicated that Joey Ryan got busted because they didn't like the fucking dick spot. It was weirdos like you that were supporting the dick spot, who thought wrestling is supposed to be fun, guys. It's just a joke. It's no big deal. It was fucking you guys who have the same exact argument that you had before. Wrestling is supposed to be fun, guys. I don't understand what you're so upset about. They agreed to do it beforehand. Fuck you, you weirdo. So I didn't stumble across Jim Cornette, but apparently he already responded to this. And somebody quote tweeted him. So I got to see it, which is pretty cool. Glad to see Plumber Moxley representing AEW with such class. Has there ever been a world champion that was so intent on embarrassing himself and his profession as this balding mud show nitwit? Special props to his opponent, who apparently wandered in from a homeless shelter. Interestingly enough, I am now seeing that there's a lot of people who only know about this because Jim Cornette tweeted about it. So this thing is really kind of breaking boundaries. Like usually GCW doesn't really get that much attention. I mean, it is what it is. Because it's a small independent show. But now you have a lot of WWE fans who stumbled across this because they recognize Dean Ambrose. And now you got Jim Cornette who's amplifying this because this guy wrestles for AEW. So now the people who don't pay attention to GCW at all are now being exposed to this. And guess what? You're not going to expose people to something that you're not proud of. So I hope Brett Lauderdale is actually proud of this. And hopefully he actually is, thinking this was a great spot. Because this is what people think your company is now. People who've never heard of GCW, they think this shit is what happens on GCW shows. And he's going to be spending the next 20 years trying to explain to people. Just like Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman spent years, decades of trying to tell people, we don't just do death matches. We didn't just have Taipei death matches and bleed all over each other. That's not all we did. We did other stuff too. And people were kind of like, yeah. You were stabbing each other in the head with bullshit. And you had glass taped to fist. Yeah, we get it. It's like, no, that's not all we did. This is going to be Brett Lauderdale's life now. Trying to explain to people why he let Effie masturbate in the middle of the ring. Why he had a GCW tag on something that involved dildos. Why was he involved in any of this horse shit? You know, but maybe he doesn't give a shit. He doesn't care. So it is what it is. It says, somebody says, how can they? Brian Alvarez was wrestling on this card. Alvarez has also had matches with Orange Cassidy and Nick Gage. Of course, Dave isn't going to shit on it. They're all friends. I didn't know any of that. I didn't know Brian Alvarez wrestled on this card. Interesting. Oh, wow. Brian Alvarez wrestled on the same show as Moxley made out with. How about that? Brian Alvarez is taking wrestling bookings. How about that? I know he was a wrestler already. Don't come at me saying like, oh, you didn't know he was a wrestler? Yeah, I knew. He's not much of one. He's terrible. He's awful. He's god awful at the you know. But would I rather watch Brian Alvarez wrestle badly or watch two grown men kiss? Well, I've seen many a bad wrestling match that didn't involve kissing. So somebody says, all the dorks asking why Effie put his hands down his trunks while being choked out. Cornet listeners are missionary only penis through the pajama hole types if they ever get laid. Interesting. I didn't know that people who paid for this show on Fight TV, they probably didn't know they were going to get the Spice Channel in response for it. But hey, it is what it is, man. Buyer beware, I guess. If you keep buying for this shit, you keep paying for this shit, you never know what you're going to get. I am just thankful that to the 2 GCW shows that I went to, there was nothing like this that occurred on those shows. I could just be very thankful for it. There's a lot of people saying that Cornette is, you know, he's stuck in the 70s and the 80s. Well, there was cross-dressing wrestlers in the 70s and the 80s. There was effeminate pro wrestlers then. And then they were blamed for using homophobia to get heat. Now, you know, Effie's using homophobia to get laughs. So what? I thought using homophobia was a problem here. Never mind. You can't ask people to be consistent because calling them hypocrites don't change their behavior. Somebody says, this is the crap I hate about wrestling, which is not really wrestling. I just don't get it. No story, no sense, no wrestling, just random crap from bell to bell. Definitely not the same stuff I grew up with in the 80s and 90s. Now, here's the crazy thing. The crazy thing is there was a story. I think the gay dude earlier told us the story of the match. They were trying to out-gay one another. You know, but the fact of the matter is that a engaging story that you feel like you should be involved in? It's not something I feel like I should be involved in. I'm not trying to out-gay the gay man. What the fuck is the point of that? And somebody says maybe Moxley and Omega can 69 for the world title. Oh boy. Jesus H. Christ. Somebody says, as soon as I saw this clip, all I wanted to hear was Jim Cornette talk about it. This is one of the most embarrassing things I've ever seen, and it's a real new low for wrestling. How is he supposed to compete on these shows? It just makes AEW look bad. Somebody says, it doesn't make AEW look bad at all, and I'll answer you with this way. Most people don't even know GCW exists. AEW is 100% safe. Guess what, brother? There are no boundaries on the internet. If I'm a super fan of AEW, I don't watch WWE. I'm a super fan of AEW, right? And I go to Twitter and I tag all the AEW stuff, John Moxley and, you know, AEW World Champion, whatever. Soon as this shit happens, the first fucking thing that's going to pop up is AEW World Champion John Moxley is kissing a guy in the ring. All right. I'm going to say, what the fuck? AEW clearly doesn't do house shows. I know that because I'm a super fan. That means John Moxley is doing some real dumb shit in another wrestling promotion. And guess what? I see it. And you can say, well, it didn't happen on AEW TV. Well, does it need to, really? Jeff Hardy didn't get drunk on AEW TV either. It still affected the program. So, this is very strange, man. Some people are now starting to wake up and realize that Effie is the same guy from the dildo spot with Marco Stunt. He is the same guy. And It's kind of embarrassing, man. But this is why and somebody made a really great response in here. I'm not going to read it because they showed it in pictures, but they showed that TV shows like to make fun of wrestling. This is from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and it's guys in bird costumes and stuff like that. And wrestling is always being made fun of. I read a lot of historical articles and journals and books and stuff like that. And one thing that is a consistent statement is that people who are sports writers, people who are writers of articles about entertainment, they never hold back when it comes to pro wrestling, especially in the past. They love talking about how stupid wrestling fans are, how inbred they are, how ridiculous and moronic they are, how what they watch is so fake and stupid and now gay, apparently. So now it's just like, we can't catch a fucking break. You can't be a normal person who likes pro wrestling anymore. You have to be the most degenerate, silly, childish, moronic person ever. Whether it's Katie Vick, whether it's, Viscera humping somebody in the ring, whether it's this kind of shit, it's all just fodder for people who already don't like wrestling to look at this and laugh at you and say, this is the kind of shit that you watch? You watch where you're a super fan of a guy who, in his spare time, in a part-time job, engages in fetish wrestling with a fetish wrestler. There it is, man. It's stupid. This is just as, look, at least when Jordan Grace did her fetish wrestling, she did it behind a paywall, and it wasn't meant to be seen by everybody. It was only meant to be seen by people who are paying her to see it. So when she did her fetish wrestling that ended up on the internet and people started sort of attacking her for it, at least it was behind a paywall. It wasn't meant for you. It was meant for people who want to see her engage in that kind of stuff. This was supposed to be a come one, come all, I'm going to put together a great show, and then they do this. It's a very different situation. Apartment wrestling, which everybody is supposed to be, for those of you who don't know, they were hire women. Sometimes they would be models. Sometimes they would be real female wrestlers to wrestle in apartment photo shoots. And they basically put each other in Boston Crabs and stuff like that, in costumes. And I think Selena De La Renta and Alicia Atout, who both worked in MLW at the time, they kind of do something similar now, where they do it for their OnlyFans, But that's essentially what apartment wrestling was. It was somewhat kink-based wrestling, and people have gone out of their way to talk about how it wasn't real wrestling and all that kind of shit. And now this is what they're doing on a national, wrestling stage. Now, thank God GCW doesn't have TV, but they are a prominent partner of Fight. And I think they probably get more biased than Impact and everything else. And this is the kind of shit that they're doing. This is embarrassing. This is gross. And now people are asking if Moxley had relapsed. I'm pretty sure he didn't. I'm pretty sure he thought this was funny and thought it'd be entertaining, that the audience would like it. And since he's not on social media, which is smart, he doesn't care. Effie is the one who's on Twitter and is going to get all the heat. Some people are going to lean more towards, oh, I like Moxley, so I'm not going to give him any of the heat for this. No, Moxley is just as much to blame for this as Effie is. These dudes are fucking weirdos. And if you like this, you're a fucking degenerate pervert. And that shit doesn't belong in wrestling. I maintain it does not belong in wrestling. Thank you guys for listening. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace.